Hello, Psych 101 students. In Learning Objective 8, we will look at consciousness changes during sleep and dreaming. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I have nothing to add here. People commonly think that the brain shuts itself down during sleep, but in fact, many brain regions are more active when we are asleep than when we are awake. Excuse me. So sleep is a normal rhythm of life. It is part of partially controlled by what we call our circadian rhythms. The word circadian, I'll just mention it comes from um, Latin words. Circa, the first part of that word, means about, and dia means day. So circadian translates to about a day. So a circadian rhythm is your daily cycle. Um, of various activities follow this 24-hour daily cycle. Some examples would be your digestion is on a daily cycle, your body temperature, your sleep wake cycle, and also hormone release. Um, okay. Uh, bright bright light reduces melatonin in darkness, increases its production. Let's go through kind of the steps of how um, the sequence of what leads to melatonin release. So changes in light during a day and into nighttime, these get registered in what's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is within the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus then signals the pineal gland. The pineal gland influences the production of melatonin, and that melatonin signals the body that it's time to sleep or to wake up. So, light affects suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is within the hypothalamus. Just to repeat this, that the hypothalamus remember, the hypothalamus is nicknamed the master regulator. So this is one of the things it regulates. It signals the pineal gland um, based on the light signals in the suprachiasmatic nucleus. The pineal gland is what causes us to increase or decrease production of melatonin, and melatonin is what signals us to that it's time to sleep or to wake up. So as we get into nighttime and it gets dark, your melatonin starts to increase, and this is what's going to make you drowsy at some point during the night and feeling like you need to sleep. And melatonin decreases when it's light out, and it makes you feel more awake. Okay, let's go on. So we're going to look at the stages of sleep. Um, what we see here are electroencephalograph or EEG recordings of electrical brain activity during different stages of sleep. We have the first two recordings are before you sleep, the ones that are colored white. So in a normal waking state, we have what's called beta waves. You can see that they're small, uh, uh, quick, choppy little waves. Right before we fall asleep, those beta waves switch to alpha waves. You can see that the waves are starting to get a little bit higher. Um, and then we have 4 stages of sleep. And we're going to talk about each of those. I'll be going back and forth between this and the next slide. So we're going to start with stage N1 sleep. And stage N1 sleep begins when sleepers drift off, and it's shown on the EEG as theta waves. So this is, a light stage of sleep. It's just, those first minutes as you've drifted off into sleep, and you can be easily awoken. Some individuals experience hypnic jerks during these first few minutes as you fall asleep. And, it's kind of like it's almost like a muscle spasm. Like you might get like feel your leg jerk or your arm jerk. Um, it's kind of weird when it happens. It feels a little weird to me, at least. Uh, just going back here, you can see the theta waves are the amplitude starting to increase. They're starting to get a little bit higher. In this stage N1 sleep, it only lasts, like I said, just a few minutes. It's just the initial stage where you just in a very light sleep as you drift off. In stage N2 sleep, breathing becomes more regular and sleepers become less sensitive to external stimulation. Your brain activity decreases, your heart rate slows down, your body temperature decreases, your muscles start to relax, and your eye movements stop. Oh, sorry. Go back here. The EEG also shows bursts of brain activity called sleep spindles and spikes called K complexes. So we can see those if you look at N2 sleep in the dark blue. You can see an example of a sleep spindle and a K complex. So sleep spindles are intense bursts of electrical activity. And K complexes are sharply rising and falling waves. We don't know exactly why they happen. There are some theories out there, but it's still not something we completely understand why we get sleep spindles and K complexes. Some people just think it's they are occurring as kind of a transitional. They occur during a transitional stage as we're moving from smaller theta waves towards the large delta waves. Okay. So speaking of large delta waves, this they occur in stage N3 sleep, also known as slow wave sleep. This is this occurs in stages 3 and 4. Uh, we're not separating stages 3 and 4, so we're just talking about N1, N2, N3, and then REM sleep. You can break slow wave slow wave sleep down into two separate stages, but there's not a lot of difference between them, so we just kind of lump them together here. So in stages 3 and 4 of deep sleep, sleepers are hard to wake, and EEGs reveal large regular delta waves. This slow wave N3 sleep is crucial to feel rested. This is what you need, like to really feel like, to feel like you've had a good sleep, that you are rested. One of the things that you may experience if you've ever slept after drinking alcohol is that you may wake up feeling not feeling as rested, and this is because this stage of sleep is often suppressed by alcohol. You tend to get less of this slow wave N3 sleep, which is what you need to feel rested. So you may sleep just as long after drinking alcohol, but still wake up feeling that you're tired, that you're still tired. Um, Stage N3 sleep occurs in 40% of sleep in children. They spend 40% of their sleep in this stage. In adults, it's about 25%. So about a quarter of your sleep tends to be in slow wave. We also often call this deep sleep. This is the sleep where You know, when you're woken up and you feel somebody wakes you up and you feel really groggy and disoriented, that's probably you were probably in slow wave sleep, and that's because it's such a deep sleep. You know, when you get woken up, it's like it's hard to shake it off. Um, okay, and moving on to REM sleep. Sleep. You know, I guess I should go back so you can see the picture of the slow wave sleep and these large delta waves. Um, they're slow. You know, they're these waves are known as slow because they're more spaced apart, but they have high amplitude. They go, you know, up and down very high. Okay, let's go on. So then stage R or REM sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement. So sleepers experience rapid eye movements, um, dreaming, and paralysis of motor systems. EEGs show beta wave activity, which is associated with an awake, alert mind. Um, if you've ever seen somebody dreaming, you can see their eyes moving beneath their eyelids. I find it a little gross. I don't know why, but I've seen my daughter. You know, I've looked into my daughter sleeping, or uh, back when she was younger, and she'd be dreaming, and you can just see like the twitching underneath the eyelid as it as their eyes are rapidly moving back and forth, and kind of freaks me out a little bit. Okay, let me go back here. So you can see the REM sleep at the bottom. Once again, we're back to beta waves, which is the same waves as our normal waking state. So uh, this stage, REM sleep, is when you do most of your dreaming, and it's often referred to as paradoxical sleep because your brain activity, as you can see, is similar to wakefulness, but during REM sleep, your muscles have become so relaxed that you're basically paralyzed. You do not move during your when you dream. You do not move at all. You lie, you know, basically perfectly still. Um, and this is why it's called paradoxical sleep. Your brain is extremely active, but your body is very inactive. You're not moving at all. Okay, I think that'll do it here. Over the course of a typical night, we cycle through the stages of sleep about 5 times. So, you know, you can see this is like just, you know, typical adult night sleep. You move, you know, you move down to slow wave sleep. You know, usually within the first hour or so, and you spend a fair bit of time there, and then you go up to you kind of cycle back up to REM sleep and have a short dream, and then you go back down to slow wave. Yeah, so you can see how it changes during the course of the night. So as the night goes on, you get less and less slow wave sleep. So most of your slow wave sleep is in the first half of a night's sleep, and so you're getting less and less slow wave sleep. But as the night goes on, you also tend to get more and more REM sleep. So REM gets longer and longer. It's not that easy to see in this diagram, but you can see the first little green REM bit. You know, it doesn't last as long as some of the later ones, and they're not showing it here. But if you have like a good long restful sleep, especially if it's sleep, you don't have an alarm set. You can maybe sleeping in on Sunday or something, and you have a real long sleep. By the end of your sleep, you may actually dream up to an hour at a time, and that would occur like right towards morning because once again your dreams tend to get longer as the night goes on, and so you can really dream for up to an hour. They're showing about a half hour dream, I think. I would say in this last green bar, between 7 and 8 hours. Um, and by the way, dream time is real time. In case anyone was wondering, if your dream feels, if you feel like you were dreaming for an hour, well, you were dreaming for an hour. Like, it's not. There was once a time where people thought that there was a different time scale, like an hour dream, like only actually took like a few minutes or something. And but no, if it feels like a half an hour, it was you were actually dreaming for a half hour. Speaking of dreams, dreams are products of consciousness during sleep, in which a person confuses images and fantasies with reality. So at the time when you're in a dream, it feels real. On average, people spend 6 years of their lives dreaming. It's a lot of dreams. Okay. There are two different types of dreams. Um, the the more typical dreams are the REM dreams. Um, they're often story-like, and they may contain bizarre or unnatural behaviors or themes or settings. Um, so if any kind of unusual dream or like story-like dream, it's going to be a REM dream. Non-REM dreams, so those that you actually get dreams outside of the REM stage, they tend to contain more realistic, mundane activities. In fact, they may be really boring. Um, One example I'll just use from one of the dreams I had. I kept adding up a column of numbers, and that was the whole dream. And it was actually just kept going on, and I really hated it. It was like because it was like the numbers were kind of changing. I had to start again, and so there was no other characters in this dream. There was no real setting. I was just sitting at a desk or a table. I don't even know where, and I just had this column of numbers, and I was like, I had a pencil. I was adding them up, and it was the most boring dream I've had. So I know that was a non-REM dream. There was when you have a REM dream, there's always at least some kind of story or there's characters that you recognize in it and or something like that. Go on. Let's look at the brain during REM sleep during our dreaming stage. Uh, so this first image is on the left is from the side view of the brain, and the red colored areas are the ones that are more active when we dream, and the blue colored areas are less active. And you can see, I'll just say actually, the second diagram is just another shot of the brain from below the brain. But what you see in both these pictures is that you get a lot of activation in the brain stem and in the visual association areas, the motor cortex, and the amygdala. And the one area that's less active is the prefrontal cortex. And this kind of makes sense. Um, a, a lot of this. I mean, the amygdala is our emotion center. So this is why we might get scared during a dream, or you might fall in love during a dream, or like we certainly experience emotions during our dreams. Um, the visual association areas would be very active because this is where we're getting the images for our dreams. I mean, we don't just create brand new images. You may feel like you have, but it'll be something that you saw sometime. It might have been when you were a child. Like if there's a monster in your dream, you didn't just make it up. It came from some picture you've seen, some movie you've seen, something, um, something because we don't create brand new images. We pull, we use these visual association areas contain, our memories and images get pulled from them. And so this is why you have people that show up in dreams, and you have settings that are somewhat familiar at times, or they come from a story or a movie or something. Um, and the motor cortex, it's interesting that that gets activated even though when we're dreaming, we're basically, as I said earlier, we're basically paralyzed. We don't move at all, but we're moving in the dream. And so the areas that control movement, the movements that we're doing in the dream, they're actually active. So if I'm walking in my dream, then the part of the motor cortex that controls my legs would be active. So I've always found that kind of interesting. And the other part that kind of fits this whole picture is is the prefrontal cortex being less active. And this is why we accept even bizarre dreams as being real at the time. Why we don't, during a dream just say, oh, this doesn't make sense, or, this is obviously not real. Like even if it's bizarre, we often at the time we feel like it's real because remember, prefrontal cortex is kind of where we do our rational thinking. And so it's basically becomes almost inactive during dreaming, and so we this is why we don't question anything, and we don't like use logic to realize that this can't be real or this is a dream. Like if you're flying a dream, you really feel like you're flying. Like if the prefrontal cortex was more active, you would say, oh, people can't fly, but because it's kind of turned off, you 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 accept what happens in the dream as being real. So kind of interesting. I thought these brain scans. Let's go on. I'm going to talk about two theories about what dreams mean, or why we dream. Uh, and the older of the two, I'm sorry, there's a helicopter going by or something. Anyways, the first one we're going to look at is Freud's theory of dreaming, and so it's a very early theory. He interpreted dreams as disguised fulfillment for the wishes of the unconscious mind. Um, so basically, he Freud believed that we have, well, he's the one that stated that we have an unconscious part of our mind, which we now know is true. So we have things stored in in our mind that we're unaware of, and so what his belief was that we had like wishes, like certain wishes stored in there that we wouldn't allow ourselves to know consciously. So maybe you're attracted to your boss, but like the idea of of ever approaching your boss and in a sexual way or anything like that would he would say that, well, you would never consider that because it's your boss, but your unconscious mind might consider it, so he would suggest that perhaps your your boss would show up in your dreams and you'd be both riding horses together, and and he believed that there was always hidden meanings in the dream. Um, Let me go back to the screen here. The manifest content is what's actually happening in the dream. So, oh, my boss and my female boss and I were riding horses together. And then he would say the latent content is the unconscious hidden meaning. And so Freud might interpret that as, well, this riding horses, you're both bouncing up and down. This suggested that you want to have sex with your boss, or something like that. And he often turned to sex uh, in his theories or in his interpretations of dreams. And so this was his theory that you dreamed of things that were coming from your unconscious. They were wishes that you would not allow yourself to think of in in normal waking conscious times. It's like you've hidden them away. You've hidden certain things away. So the example shown here is this woman's flying. So the manifest content is it's what's actually happening. So manifest is like, oh, I was flying in my dream. So manifest just means it's it's what actually occurred. And then the latent content, once again, it's the hidden unconscious meaning. So he might say that, oh, flying is is a person trying to flee from some kind of real world problem. Oh, you're flying to escape or something like that. And anyways, down to our last point here. Virtually no support exists for Freud's ideas that dreams represent hidden conflicts and that objects in dreams have special symbolic meanings. Um, Back, after he came out with the theory, dream interpretation was a big thing for a long time. Freud did a lot of it, and then people after him did a lot of it, but it's not something that very many psychologists do anymore, or because Well, because this next theory that we're going to look at suggests that there's no meaning in dreams at all. So the second theory is the Hobson and McCarley theory. You can see their names listed on the screen here, Hobson and McCarley. It was published in 1977 originally. It's called the activation synthesis theory. And it basically says that dreams are the result of the brain's attempt to make sense of random brain activity by synthesizing the activity with stored memories. So the idea is that while you sleep, there is some random activity that goes on in the brain. Just some impulses that are coming because your brain's always active. Like, your heart and your heart's still beating, and you're still breathing and whatnot. And this is going back to the picture. This is why the brain stem's active, during dreams because the brain stem is always active. And their idea was that there was impulses that originated in the brainstem that would travel up into the cerebral cortex, and they would activate memories or images or sounds just kind of randomly. And so once these things get activated, you try to make sense of it. So it's like I had an image of my mother activated randomly, and I had a memory of going to Niagara Falls activated, and I don't know, I had the topic of baseball activated, and I have my dream is that I was playing baseball at Niagara Falls and my mother was watching me or something like that. So you get these random activations. They could be sounds or images or memories, and your brain tries to make sense of it. So it kind of builds a story around it. Critics of this theory argue that dreams are rarely as chaotic as we might expect if they were based on random brain activity. They say that, well, dreams would be a lot less, sensible. If it was just all random, you would. But I don't know. I think the brain could build a story around any kind of activations. Like you could because the brain wants to make sense of these things. So, anyways, the critics believe that our dreams would be even more chaotic if it was all random. But this theory certainly is accepted much more than Freud's. By the way, there are one or two other theories, but we're not going to be covering them. So the main difference, I'll point out, Freud said that there's a lot of meaning in dreams. It really is coming from the unconscious. It really does signify something. And Hobson and McCarley is that the dreams are meaningless because they're based on random activation. And that will conclude learning objective 8.